This is Southwest ABE, and this is the learnerweb instructions for students in regards to CNA and medical terminology using learnerweb. This is our sheet that we usually give to our students. And on the top, rather than give you the link to the learnerweb site, because it is a long and painful process typing down all the characters that are in that random hodgepodge of an address, because you can't just Google search learnerweb. The how-to instructions for students is to simply just click on our homepage where we've created the link and follow our instructions from there. So this is our homepage that's loading now. And then next on the instructions says click distance learning tab, which here's the distance learning tab. So you click on that. So after you click on the distance learning tab, then you click on learnerweb, which takes you here. And here's the learnerweb button. Now, next on the sheet is to type or to click on sign in, which I've already done. You click on it here and then it opens up this screen. And then next is to type in the screen name. Now you're not going to do what I did verbatim or what the sheet says, but MAR dot your first name dot your last name is the account. And if you're having trouble after a couple of days of getting your account set up, it could be because there's a mistake on our end on the account name not being spelled correctly. So after 2 or 3 days, if you cannot get on after you have registered with us, I would come back to us and ask and just verify that either the account was created correctly or was it created at all. So anyway, you would go in here, type this, and then the student password would be student, all lowercase. All of the username is also lowercase. And the dots in between are important to remember as well. Okay. Now, when you log into your account, this will be the first window that you see, and you will only see this the first time you log in. The things you got to remember is this thing, your first name, your last name, your email. That's usually all typed in already. The other questions like age, gender, that stuff doesn't matter. The things you got to pay attention to are the things with the red asterisks and make sure that they're filled out. Now, I'm a teacher in Marshall, so most of my students who come here, they are registering in the Marshall region. But for those of you who are in Jackson or Pipestone or Worthington, another one would be Montevideo. So if you're in Granite Falls, then you would also select Montevideo. But those are important to clarify which region that you are located in. The other thing that they need is the role. So number 10 and number 6 are usually the things that are not filled out when you create your account and that you have to fill in when you first do this login. And you say, I am here to learn. This is my teacher account, so that's why it doesn't say that, but you would click, I am here to learn. Then you would save and close that. It would then take you here. Now this is the confusing part, is students think that they have to do all of this. No, the only thing you have to do is if you're doing CNA, in the instructions it says choose the goal, prepare to be a certified nursing assistant. And if you are going into TMA, you do integrated medical terminology course. So the prepare to be a certified nursing assistant, for example, is down here. So if you're doing the CNA course, you would click that, and then you would click choose this goal. Once you've chosen that goal, it'll show you this. Now I'm going to take a step back by going and clicking on my home just to show you something. But now when you go to my goals, you see all the classes on the left here. Here's medical office preparation. That's not the one I'm looking for. It's right here, integrated medical terminology course. That would be the other one you could choose. But when you choose goals, they go to your right as goals you are working on. When you actually go in, click on here, you'll go back to this page, which is basically like sub-chapters of a book. And each chapter of the book has parts of the lesson, but then it also has a quiz. And the quiz requires that you get an 80% or better, and then you can move on to the next chapter. So basically, you work your way to the end, and then that's the course. Now, I will get into these sub chapters, but something you may want to know about when you get to the end, this step kind of confuses students. For some reason, part of this course, and the last thing is for a portrait test. For our CNA course, we do not require you to fulfill this part, but to actually be completed with the CNA through learnerweb, you do need to just put something in here to submit. So I usually just tell my students, doesn't matter what you put, whether you passed or not, they just want you to submit this, because when you submit this part, doesn't matter what's in there, then it can officially count your class as complete when you actually go through all the other chapters. So as you can see here, this is kind of how you navigate through the different chapters, is by going on this goal tab. The My Home section that I showed before is the different classes, and they call them goals in LearnerWeb, but basically the goal of CNA is the CNA class for LearnerWeb. You are not required to do the other classes unless if you're doing medical terminology, like I said here. So now we will get into the first chapter. So you see how it says not started. And if I go back to that one that I had completed, it says completed. So it does keep track. As soon as you click on one thing in that subchapter or portion, it will start to say in progress. And as soon as you pass the quiz, it will say completed, like it did down here for the step. So when I click on this and I open it, it'll take me to the first page, which kind of looks like a PowerPoint in its presentation. And if I go back to goal now, just to verify, it now says in progress. So I go back again. There's these links here, which may be helpful to you for vocab, just to print off and keep track of. But the thing that's confusing about LearnerWeb is that students think that this portion here is what you're supposed to be working on and learning. And that's technically exactly what this word here says. It's just an overview. This is actually not the meat and potatoes of what you're learning. To actually learn what you need to through this course online, you need to click on these little links in these blue boxes below. When you click on it, it changes from white to orange, regardless of whether you complete the thing or not. It's just something you can use to keep track of whether or not you looked at it before. You may want to revisit old links as you're studying for difficult quizzes, but I will just show you this link, for example. And notice how it opened a new tab from here to here. Sometimes on Chrome, if you use like Chrome like I do, you got to click here and allow it every once in a while for the flash. Then it loads. Now this is a PowerPoint, but this is a PowerPoint that you actually need to read, go through, study. And at the end of it, there is an actual test that has like a few questions just to test your knowledge. So for example, this one here, and you can go through and see which one's right or wrong. You can go through this as many times as you need to, take the notes, do whatever you need to. This is the studying portion of the test or of the class. So we would click next here, and you see how after you got done with that first assignment, now there are other ones. So I will show you a different one. This is also a PowerPoint. But when I click on this one here, it is a YouTube video. So when I go through the YouTube video, I would watch this video, learn from it, take my notes, and then I would go to the next link and move on. Now, another thing that you may not have, I haven't pointed out yet is that when I'm going through here, I can either click back on the LearnerWeb tab, or I can X out of these tabs here to get back to LearnerWeb tab. But that's kind of confusing for some students that are used to the older generation of opening new windows all the time, where they want to X out when they're done with the activity here. If you click X here, when you're going through an activity, you will actually X out of your LearnerWeb. And we'll have to go back to the link again, and we'll have to log in again. So I would not recommend clicking the X there. Now, as you go through the different categories here and go through the notes and study them, you will finally get to the end where there's the quiz. You click on the quiz here, and I will just kind of just go through here and submit just so you can kind of see what happens. Is when you go through the quiz, you answer the questions to the best of your ability. You submit the quiz when you're done. So obviously I did not score 80%. I will be given a chance to do over. So I would click on do over here. But something I want to show you is that it does show which questions and which answers were wrong and which questions and answers were right. So what I would do is before you click do over is I would go through and verify which ones you had already gotten right, because those are the ones, or wrong, depending on which ones. The list is smaller. For my case here, I have 3, 6, 9, and 11, and 13 that were all wrong. So what I want to do then is on a piece of scratch paper, before I click do over, just kind of write those down to save yourself time, because the problem that students have is they forget which ones were right and which ones were wrong as they were going through it. And since you're learning this the first time, rather than doubting yourself and wasting time doing that, I would suggest writing down the ones you got wrong on a list and doing them over because you need that 80%. But I actually want to aim for 100%, because if it's a question you missed on here, it could be a question you miss on the CNA licensure test. So now that I've reset it, you can see that all of my answers didn't reset like you would see in a normal online quiz. They actually say lock in place. But now I don't know which one's right or which one's wrong. And that's why it can be helpful to make that list ahead of time. And that basically concludes the class. You would go through each one of these goals, passing each one of the quizzes as you go. And it does keep track of where you're at. So when you quit for the day or quit after doing a couple lessons, it will remember what slides you were on. If you want to go back, I would suggest going to goal and navigating that way. If you're having problems with a certain quiz and just kind of want to move on past it, that's hard to do because you can't go past a quiz until you pass it. So if I click next here, it'll just keep bringing me back to this quiz. But if I want to move on, I can actually go back to goal, click on the next chapter and open it that way. And that's a way to skip it, but you will need to go back there eventually and pass that quiz in order to change this goal of certified nursing assistant from being what I'm working on to being completed. After you go and finish the whole CNA course, you will see that this will no longer say working on. It will say goals you have completed, and then it will list that class. That is when you know you are absolutely done with the class. And this concludes the tutorial on LearnerWeb.